This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth. I just got home from Vancouver, where earlier today I had met up with David Icke for an interview. And we had talked about the alt-right and the antifa on the left and all the clashes that are happening in the United States. That video's out now. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. But while I was waiting there to meet with David, I was going over all my questions and mentally preparing for the interview in my head. And all of a sudden, the film director Kevin Smith walked by, and he went right into the cafe that I was sitting at. And so I noticed across the street there's a film crew there, and I put two and two together. I realized he must be in town working on a movie and probably just had to go to the washroom or something, and he's going to come back out any second now. So I start scrambling to put together my camera equipment. I figure I should get an interview with this guy. And as I'm pulling all my stuff out and I'm trying to think, what should I ask him about? Well, all these questions about the so-called alt-right and Antifa were on my mind because I'm about to interview David Icke in a half an hour from now. And so right then and there he comes, sure enough, back out of the cafe. So I say, hey Kevin, do you mind if I get a photo with you? So he says, sure, let's, no problem. So we take the picture. And as we take the photo, as soon as we're done, I say, hey, listen, do you mind if I get an interview with you? I have a YouTube channel, and we could do it all right here on my phone. I have my mic pretty much set up. I can grab it right now. It'll only take a minute or two. And he said, sure, if it's just going to be a minute, no problem. So I said, great. I run over, and I grab my mic, and I continue to put it together, getting set up for the interview. And he sees it, and he says, Press for Truth. Is this about politics? Because I don't really want to talk about politics. What's this going to be about? And I said, actually, I was going to ask you more about the left and the right and, you know, some of the clashes that are happening in the United States in that regard. And he said, oh, yeah, I thought you were going to ask me about the movie I'm working on. I don't want to talk about politics, but I'll talk about the movie. So I said, oh, okay, I'll just ask you about the movie then. So I fired up the cameras and I started rolling, and I did just that. I asked him about what he's working on in Vancouver and asked him about the movie. And I had nowhere else to go from there, so I was about to wrap up the interview. I wasn't about to ambush him with a political question. I wanted to respect his wishes. So I was about to wrap it up, and then all of a sudden he says, okay, what was it? What did you want to ask me? Have at it. What's the question anyways? So I laid out some of the things that I'm seeing in the United States, have some questions about the alt-right and Antifa on the left. And here's what Kevin Smith had to say about it all. This is the interview.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. We are here in downtown Vancouver, and I just happened to run into the one and only Kevin Smith, who is in town right now working on a film, it looks like. There's a crew over there. And tell us what brings you to Vancouver. What are you guys working on right now?
Pressing for Truth. No, I'm looking for. We're shooting an episode of Supergirl. So this is my third, and I came up to Vancouver. I'm a big fan of the area. I went to film school here and stuff back in '92. So I came up to direct an episode of Supergirl. But as you can see, it doesn't require. I walk around. They're working. If you turn the camera, you see all those like hundreds of people at work. Turn the camera. Look at. Keep turning. Look at all those people across the street. That's us. That's just make pretend. You can turn it back. Cool. Look, I'm directing. I'm sorry. I can't help.
Nice. So what's the, well, I don't know how much you can give or tell us. What? Yeah.
In this episode, unfortunately, you sign a non-disclosure agreement. But let me assure you, there's some jam. And then Supergirl gets somebody out of that jam. Okay. Seems to be a regular theme on the show. It's a wonderful show. I love it to death.
Cool, man.
Try. You got to try. Go ahead.
Well, okay. I'll ask you. Why don't I ask you what I was going to ask you? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm meeting up with somebody right now in about an hour. He's kind of a controversial figure. He's here speaking in Vancouver. He's got a sold-out show at an arena. And I'm going to be asking him in about an hour the same question, and that's the current state of the left-right divide in America. We've seen a split into these kind of different factions that now the alt-right and the supposed, Antifa on the left. We're seeing clashes in places like Berkeley where, freedom of speech is kind of being stifled by the left, and then there's these white supremacists on the right. What do you make of this current, divide that's going on in America? Where do you think this is stemming from?
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm going back. Did you say the freedom of speech was being stifled by the left?
Yes, it seems that there.
Depends if you think hate speech is free speech. Like, in America we celebrate people are free to say what they want to and what the country was founded on, but that doesn't include hate speech, and there are laws in place for that sort of thing. And oddly enough, we've kind of reached a climate in the U.S. where we're seeing activity that you haven't seen in quite some time and don't really associate with the current version of the United States. Disheartening, but all one can do is kind of remember the facts. And right now, the facts in such a case like Charlottesville is a bunch of people descended on a small liberal arts college town to start some shit. And normally, historically, the administration that occupies the White House would have condemned something like that, and instead the president made room for points of view that are morally reprehensible and don't have anything to do with what the country's founded on.
I've heard that kind of faction of this right wing is very, very small, like percentage-wise. I think there's, maybe 500 people like that, actual neo-Nazis in America.
But 500 people with bricks, all it takes is one guy with a fucking car. So it doesn't matter how small it is. If you're preaching hate, that's what happens. And you can't sit there and go morally equivocate and be like, well, there was on both sides. Bullshit. Nobody on the other side, no leftist took a car and drove it into a crowd of human beings. There's a woman who's fucking dead. 2 cops died because they had to patrol this inanity and this bullshit that was allowed to happen. So, yeah, when death enters the equation, and the other side is still being given voice, and their voice is like, well, we don't need the voice. We're just going to jump in a car like an ISIS agent would and weaponize a vehicle against our own brothers and sisters in the United States. This is horrible, dude. There's no longer a discussion about, well, everybody should be allowed to have their say. Hate speech has no say, not just in America and anywhere. And look where it leads to. Somebody got killed. Somebody is dead. Somebody will never live again because bunch of jackasses wanted to go down to a city they're not even from and start some shit. And those jackasses, that's not both sides. That's one side. That's the Nazis, the fascists, the Klan. It's clear as day. And in any other administration would be clear as day. But for some reason, you got one person in this administration who won't say what the country wants him to say without equivocating, without sitting there and being like, well, some of these people were bad too. No. And then saying there were fine people on both sides makes you sick.
I think
I be in Vancouver for that reason. I gotta get back to work though.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good luck with what is it? What is it called?
Press for Truth.
Keep pressing for truth.
Thank you. You too. All right, Kevin Smith on the false left-right paradigm. Well, I should say not false. It's the left-right divide in America between the alt-right and the Antifa left. Very interesting. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth.